We have one thing in common where we've been in the fitness industry for quite a while now. It's a tough industry to stay in for a long time. Like the gym I used to work at was 100% commission. A lot of trainers couldn't cut it. They ended up going to like medical sales or other different things. And you have been in this industry for a long time. And I heard you talking in a recent podcast about actually going broke multiple times in your life, including one where literally you went very broke, but you did it because you chose what you wanted to do, something that one of our former guests and one of my clients talks about as soul purpose. He was chasing a soul purpose, SOUL purpose. Tell us what it was like to be in that position, to be where you wanted to be, obviously not what you were first doing, but then to transition in the fitness industry and to have so much passion that you were literally willing to go all the way to being like flat out broke doing it.
It's a really interesting journey because if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 2007 you qualified. So you were a few years ahead of me. I was
Right.
2012. And for me, I trained as an elementary school teacher. So that was my job. It's what I thought I was going to do until I was age 65. And then I was going to retire and do the normal life of, 2.3 kids, retire 65, live another few years, and then die. And that's it. When I qualified first as a teacher, and got my first teaching job, which was in a school in West London in the UK. I was about 30 minutes into my first day in a third grade classroom with 37-year-old children. And I thought, this isn't what I want to do. I've spent the last 4 years getting a degree in business studies and then a graduate degree in teaching, all to become and follow this route. And the analogy that I've used in books, my most recent one as well, Rewriting Your Story, is that it felt like I spent years climbing a ladder only to realize it was up against the wrong wall. And that's what happened to me. And there was a large chunk of the sunk cost fallacy kicking in. I spent all this time, energy, money, and this was what the career I thought I was supposed to do. It's what my family and friends told me that I should do. It's what I just kind of accepted as the norm. And I came home that Christmas after 4 months in a teaching job and had a nice little pity party for myself, Casey. I was like miserable. I hated my job. I was the first in every morning. I was the last to leave every evening. I didn't understand the United Kingdom educational system. I took on way too many projects within the school to try and make myself a fit in there and make myself valuable to the team because I wanted to rise and climb that ladder. And I was completely burnt out that Christmas. And I remember coming home, and I spoke about this in Habit 6 of the new book about giving yourself a reason to jump out of bed every morning. And I was miserable. I wasn't quite suicidal ideation, but I was really, really, really unhappy. And I was out one night with my friends, and I had a few drinks. And again, I say this publicly now, and I shouldn't, because hopefully they can't arrest you in hindsight, going back, 14 years ago or 12 years ago. I was having a few drinks with my friends, and I drove home. And I remember as I was coming back to my mum and dad's house, there's like this bridge that you normally just slow down to about 40 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, and you kind of take the bridge normal speed. And I found myself speeding up as I came to this bridge. I was doing 60 miles an hour. I went to 70 miles an hour. I went to 80 miles an hour. And it wasn't that I was wanted to crash the car just in my life, but I was really miserable and unhappy with what I was doing. And I thought I was stuck, because what's weird now as a 37-year-old man, looking back when I was 23, 24, I thought I'm a disappointment to everybody. I've made such terrible decisions. I hate my job. I'm stuck in this. I don't like London. I don't want to be here anymore. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And all those emotions kind of flooded to my head as I was driving up towards this bridge. And then something just snapped, and I was like, oh, Jesus. And I slammed on the brakes. The car did a 180 in the middle of the road. It was 3 a.m., thankfully, at Christmas. So nobody was there or nobody was on the road. And I kind of composed myself, shook it off, and then went home and went to sleep. And then woke up the next day and remembered the night before and was thinking, oh, Jesus. I was like, that was pretty scary. And then I went out to the kitchen where my mother was cooking, preparing for Christmas dinner, and I just bawled out crying. I just got a complete breakdown. And the old adage that you need to break down to break through was very relevant in my case. And my mum, who's always been my biggest fan from day one to now, said something that I've never forgot and actually made it as a section into that book. And she asked the question, what would you do for free? And I sat there and I kind of shook myself off, going, okay, firstly, I'm not stuck. I'm not getting this, I'm a disappointment back from somebody whose opinion I massively value. But it also got me thinking, and I thought I would work in a gym for free. I was like, if I was cleaning the floor in a gym, fitness was always my passion. It was my hobby, my passion, and a combination of both all through my life. I played sport all through my life, and the gym was a massive part of that. And I wanted to be in that environment. And I said, if I was just sweeping the floor and had enough money to put a roof over my head and food in my mouth, this was before I had my daughter. So I was single, I had no ties. I knew myself I'd be happy in that scenario. So that played out. And I went, okay, well, how do you work in a gym? And I started to research things like fitness instructor courses, personal training courses, and then everything opened up from there. I wrote my notice and handed it in virtually over email to my head teacher, my principal at the time, and signed up to a level 2 fitness instructor course that January. And when I went back to London, that first day in the classroom for a fitness instructor course was the complete opposite of how I felt my first day as an elementary school teacher. I thought, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be doing this. I don't know what this looks like yet, but this is where I'm supposed to be. And fast forward multiple years on, I got my personal training certificate. Then I went and got my sports nutrition, my strength and conditioning. I went and qualified in all those areas and was able to set up a business that is something I never want to retire from. I have a business podcast as well on top of my health podcast, the Brian Keane podcast. The online business podcast is the business podcast. And I always speak on there that try and create a business you don't want to retire from. And for me, it led off going broke twice, because I'm shortening the story greatly, because I did all the mistakes you could make as a personal trainer, as a coach. I spent all my money on branded kit with a logo. I had business cards and I had no clients. So the worst occasion of that was in London when I was making the attempt number 2 as a personal trainer and then working as a teacher during the day. I spent all my money on gym rental. Slightly different setup to you. I had to pay a gym in the UK, which was very expensive. It was actually the same as my rent in my apartment at the time. So I had way too much month at the end of the money regularly, and I burnt through that quite quickly. And I had to go down through, and I'll never forget this moment because people always ask, is that true? I had to go down toward the back of my couch because I couldn't take out a £10 note in my bank account, and I had to pay my rent that month, because you in the UK, if you have less than £10, you can't actually take money physically out of a machine. So I had to go down the back of my couch to get money for the bus so that I could get to the bank, so I could set up an overdraft so I could pay my pay my rent that month. And looking back, that was me done. I was like, I'm not cut out to be a personal trainer. I'm not cut out to be in the fitness industry. I'm not good at this. And by the universe or God or a higher power or whatever it was, one of the teachers, when I went back as a substitute, tail between my legs because I had failed twice at a fitness business, she came in and said, I'm preparing for a wedding in 6 months. I heard you're a personal trainer. And I said, oh no, that's not something I do anymore. That was something I was trying for a while. It didn't work. And she goes, look, please. And I said, okay, I'll take you on as a client. I don't have a gym. I'll take you in the park, but I can't charge you for it. I was like, I'm no good at this personal training thing, but I will take you down. I'll do some workouts with you. And then after the third session, she was starting to lose a bit of weight. I was helping her with the nutrition, and she was ended up saying, look, I can't take your time for this. Look, I'm dropping weight. I'm losing body fat. I feel great. Please take money for these sessions. And it was in that moment I thought, oh, I'm not a bad personal trainer. I just don't understand business. And they're two very different things. They're two completely different hats you have to wear as an entrepreneur. And fast forward 12 years on, that was the seed of failure, planting the tree for future success. I've gone on and I've written multiple best-selling books. I've got a very big podcast, one of the top health podcasts in the world, a decent social media profile. I help and have helped thousands of people over the years between programs and coaching and courses. And it all kind of seeded from that failure of going broke, having my ladder against the wrong wall, and getting better at listening to that voice, like you mentioned there about your client, that soul, following the soul call. And that's what I've been doing for the last decade or so. And it's got me to the point now where I get to have awesome conversations with you, Casey. I get to do things that I would do for free still to this day. And I'm very, very grateful for the situation. But the reason I share it is sometimes when we're in the thick of it, whether it's weight loss, whether it's, a lot of people I know on carnivore, low carbohydrate diets, trying to balance their blood sugars, trying to get their body composition to where they want to be, trying to get their energy to where it want to be. Sometimes it's very hard to see the end result when you're in the early stages of it. But every master was once a disaster. Everyone who's mastered their nutrition once didn't have a mastery of their nutrition. They got there for a reason, by trial and error, working with coaches, listening to podcasts like this, educating themselves. And the same goes in the career, same goes in relationships. I know it's Bethany, if I'm not mistaken. Like you don't build really successful relationships, really successful businesses, really successful body composition without failure being feedback, and not letting the failure be final. And that mindset shift is so important in all different facets of life.